as y'all saw the Confederate statue, we are in the lovely city of Hot Springs. The city itself is lovely. We ain't gonna say the people are all lovely. But we were riding by, my wife and I, and she told me a very interesting story about not necessarily the statue, but this spot right here. So she's gonna speak up. Hopefully y'all can hear. We got a lot of traffic. It's Friday and it is jumping. But go ahead.
Yeah, so this spot right here that you're looking at behind this statue is a big old building. It's been here a long time too. This area right here is the spot where 2 black men were lynched. Not on the same day, not in the same year, but before this statue was here, there was a big telephone pole. Is it still there? I don't think the pole is there. But there was a big pole here, and they lynched a man on that pole, and then some years later they lynched another man on the pole. And since then, to I guess you could say hide what they did, they took the pole down and they erected this statue here. They could have put this statue anywhere because they had like a vote on where to put it, and they decided to put it right here. But then there was a protest. People were mad. They didn't want it right here because they know what happened right here, and they were denied. They said no, they're gonna put it here anyway. And then I think some years later, people made a big stink about it again to have it removed and put somewhere else, and they said no. So the statue remains, and it's a Confederate soldier that's up there, and you can see the flag that's on the front of there. It says 1861 to 1865, and yeah, it's to hide the 2 lynchings that took place right here in this very spot.
Do you know why they were lynched? Or why they said they were lynched?
One of them, I believe the man they said had done something to a young girl, and the other one, I think he did something to a lawyer, some prominent white man, and the other one was a girl. Now, were they innocent or guilty? That I can't say. All I can say is they were lynched right here in public, and there was a big, like, you can go online and see these black and white pictures of the men that were lynched here many years ago.
So you can go online and look at the actual pictures of the men hanging from.
I know for sure one I seen. The other one I don't know. I know I read the article, but there might be pictures of both. But for sure there's one, because I remember seeing it. And there's, in the article they talk about the crowds of people that was out here, the mob that drugged the dude out here and lynched him. Even though the police, and in both instances, the police were supposed to put the men in jail, but the people of Hot Springs took it upon themselves and drugged the men out here and lynched them without the police permission in front of everybody.
Do you know what year was this around? Do you remember?
I don't.
18s or 19s, late 19s.
I just know the pictures were in black and white, so it was a long time ago. I don't remember. It might have been the 19s. I'm not sure. That's why when you see the date on here on this thing, it says 1861. They're saying that the lynchings happened first, and then they put this here. So it kind of throws you off, because if the people were lynched in, like, let's say they were lynched in the 1900s, you wouldn't think that, because you would think, oh, this statue was here first, but that's just not true. This statue was not here first. So it's like they purposely throw you off by putting that date on there. But I think it was the early 1900s. And the reason I say that is because I talked to my mom about it, and she was saying that my great grandmother was here during that time. And so that would have been like the early 1900s.
Living in America. Good God! Say it again. Woo! Only in America where you can put up a Confederate statue of the people that lost. The Confederates lost, or they lost in the history books, but did they really lose? Only in America you could put up a statue of the people that allegedly lost to pretty much hide the lynching of 2 black men.
And also, what does that, like, why right here? You know what I'm saying? This spot doesn't have any relevance in the war. They could have put this statue anywhere. That's why the people were fighting about it. They were like, why right here? Could put it somewhere else. Well, we know why.
Yep, because they know what's up. They could have put anything here.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't put a memorial here, because you know it's kind of hard sometimes to get memorials for our people. They could have put anything. They put a massive Confederate statue. The Confederate lost.
They could have put one. They did it in New York. All them slaves they covered up with those big buildings, those big skyscrapers.
Yeah, they put one itty bitty small ass plaque.
No. I've been since then. They put something bigger there. Since then.
Okay.
Yeah, they did. They put something like when you go inside this like dome type thing, they put like African American woman, African American. It's a nice memorial. It is. They could have put something like that here. It could have been small, but still, it would have been better than this.
But you know what? We don't want the memorial. We want a check.
Yeah.
Memorial. They put a memorial, but they still doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna give y'all a memorial. We're gonna give you a trinket while we still running slaves through the stock market.
Yeah. But back to this. Thousands of people pass by this on a regular basis because this is a tourist town. Most of the people that probably pass by it aren't even from here. And if they do come over here to read it, they would never have known what happened right here because of what they put right here.
This is a true definition of revisionist history. Because like my wife said, you would think that they had this statue here, this spot would have some heavy significance with the war and the Confederates. But it has more history with racism and lynchings and stuff like that.
Yeah, they did. The Confederate flag, which is on the front of it too.
Yeah, like the Confederates lost. At least they lost on paper. But we know the Confederates are still around. America, still Confederate, still, what you would call republic or whatever. Because even though that they're split, even though they seem to be split, they're not. Two sides of the same coin. But to me, American flag, Confederate flag. Matter of fact, you got the American flag right next to it. I don't know what flag that is. Probably one of these flags is the Arkansas flag. Probably with that one right there. I don't know. I really don't.
I can't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, Arkansas flag, American flag, and then
that's like the old one. That's not. It don't even look like that no more. Maybe that's what it looked like during the war. It doesn't look like that no more.
You got the Confederate flag, and I don't know what it is. Well, I don't give a hoot nanny about none of them. Not anymore. You know, we used to pledge our allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for what it stands for. So we were pledging ourselves to
fake news.
Fake news. We were pledging ourselves to slavery. We pledging ourselves back into captivity by pledging ourselves to the flag.
I mean, but they made it mandatory. Think about it. When I was in school, it wasn't even an option. It was like, you gonna stand up. We
didn't know no better. Nobody wasn't teaching us.
Who would have taught us? I don't think anybody we knew. My parents didn't know.
Somebody knew, but we just didn't know them people that knew. Because if we would known, we would never went to the military.
That's true. We never went to the military, and I would have never put my hand over my heart and said I pledge allegiance to no flag. And I wouldn't have sang that song either.
Exactly.
The old say, can you see?
Oh yeah, I think about my country.
No, I'm talking about the one Kaepernick got in trouble behind.
Oh yeah.
Old say, can you see?
Oh yeah.
And then remember we found out about that song. It's got a third verse, fourth verse. It's racist.
What we call it, stanza.
Yeah. Stanza, third stanza, fourth stanza. Yeah. Racist. They'll never sing it.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Just like this statue. They don't want you to know. We're gonna hide it.
Well, we put a Confederate statue up instead. Crazy world we live in. Crazy world. That's why I keep to myself.
Cause people ain't gonna too much stop for this. But I guarantee you, if there was a statue of a black man with a noose around his neck, or something that was pertaining to the men that was lynched, people would stop.
If it were me, I would have did something crazy like that. Let's say in my city, I would have made a statue of a black man being lynched. So when people ride by it, they
gonna stop.
Yeah, shock and awe. Like, why did they choose this? Because we want you to remember that this is what happened. We don't want you to walk by here and then not know what happened.
Twice, y'all. Twice, right here in this spot.
But guess what? Stuff like that ain't good for business.
That's true, and this is a touristy town. Even the police don't bother you here, so
Yeah.
They don't want no smoke.
But hey, Confederacy is good for business though.
Too.
That's why I keep to myself. keep to myself. I'm praying I get my acres out in the country somewhere or wherever, and if I call leave me the hell alone, land. But yeah, we just want to drop this nuggets on you, these nuggets on you, give you something to think about, and go look it up. Hot Springs, Arkansas, lynching downtown. It's a lot of stuff.
Yep.
It's a lot of stuff about this this city. I mean, it's a lot of stuff everywhere, but I'm specifically here and everything. Hey, but judgment is coming. Judgment is coming to everybody, black and white. We out.
The stone Confederate soldier stands with his hands gripping the barrel of a rifle whose butt rests on the ground by his foot, and he is equipped with a bedroll, canteen, and bullet pouch. The sculpture is 6 feet high, set upon a base 12 feet high, so the soldier can easily overlook the plaza bounded by Central, Washita, Market, and Olive Streets in downtown Hot Springs. This simple monument bears the years 1861, 1865 on its north face, above the words Confederate soldiers. The Hot Springs chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy began raising funds for the monument in 1907, but these efforts lagged until 1929, when the chapter received the promise of $1,000 from the statewide UDC, payable at $200 a year. In 1933, the City Council passed an ordinance allowing the UDC to place the planned monument at what was then still called the Como Triangle, and the monument was formally dedicated on June 2, 1934. Hot Springs had actually been spared much of the direct violence of the Civil War. Worried that Little Rock might fall in 1862, Governor Henry Massey Rector briefly relocated state records there for just over 2 months, making Hot Springs the de facto Confederate state capital, but the city was never occupied by Union soldiers, while a February 4, 1864, skirmish is listed in the official records with an asterisk indicating that no substantial reports are on file, meaning it was likely the most minor of affairs. No doubt, local men served in Confederate units, though the Washita Mountains region, not being so invested in the institution of slavery as other parts of the state, also lent many men to the Union. These men may have seen violence, but their town escaped rather unscathed during the Civil War. However, during the early 20th century, Hot Springs twice erupted into the kind of violence that has its roots in the issues left unresolved by the Civil War, and both times, it happened right where that monument to Confederate soldiers stands today. Will Norman, a black man, was murdered there on June 19, 1913. Norman had worked as a servant for the family of C. Floyd Huff, a prominent man who had served as county judge from 1898 to 1900. After Huff's daughter, Garland, was found stuffed in a closet with her head bashed in, suspicion immediately fell upon Norman. And newspapers prominently claimed that little Garland had battled off the advances of Will Norman despite the fact that no one had witnessed the attack and the victim was never able to relay her story before dying later that day. According to the Arkansas Gazette, as news of the event quickly spread, crowds began to gather, armed in open manner, and the woods were honeycombed with grim-visaged men, numbering in the thousands. Determined to seek out and find the brute and silently acquiescing in a general scheme to make short work of him when he was found. 2 men found Norman outside of town, and upon their arrival at the jail, and a group of 500 men quickly surrounded their buggy and took Norman themselves. Judge Huff gave his boys permission to attend the lynching after they asked, "Father, may we go see that Negro lynched, please?" At the intersection of Washita Avenue and Central Avenue. Norman was hanged and his body riddled with bullets, after which it was cut down and burned. By the following day, people were picking through the ashes for bones to keep as souvenirs, and ashes were being gathered into matchboxes and sold. The next lynching in Hot Springs took place on August 1, 1922. On August 1, 1922, a mob of as many as 500 people broke into the Hot Springs jail and, brandishing guns, forcibly took a man and lynched him at the triangle in front of the Como Hotel located at the intersection of Central and Washita Avenues. In his memoirs, Roswell Rigsby, an eyewitness to the lynching, stated, "I believe this was the last lynching in Hot Springs, at least in public." There are some conflicting reports as to the first name of the man lynched. There are references to his first name being Punk, Bunk, and Gilbert. However, all accounts list his last name as Harris. Accounts of the hanging appeared in newspapers as far away as Portland, Oregon. One account of the lynching appeared in the August 2nd issue of the New York Times, published as a special from Hot Springs. According to the article, Gilbert Harris, described as a Negro 28 years of age, was lynched in Hot Springs the morning after his arrest and after the death of Maurice Connolly, described as age 26 and a prominent young businessman. The Times offered a quotation from the Sentinel Record of Hot Springs, in which it was stated, "The lynching in this city yesterday morning of the Negro Harris will put an end to the house robberies that have been prevalent for some time." Aside from avenging the murder of Maurice Connolly, the lynching will put fear into the criminal class which invades the homes of people. At least one eyewitness account described the lynching and its highly visible and social setting. At the time Rigsby witnessed the lynching, he was 12 years old and working as a newspaper boy. Previous to the lynching, he said that he had followed the reports of a series of burglaries that had been committed in the Quapaw Avenue neighborhood. A comprehensive account of the lynching is derived from several official reports appearing in the Hot Springs New Era, a local newspaper. The New Era indicates that Harris had been arrested for the home burglary and murder of Connolly. Within hours of the arrest, a crowd began to form at the city jail where Harris was being held. According to the report, Circuit Judge Scott Wood, Police Chief R.O. Sullivan, and Mayor Harry A. Jones pleaded with the crowd to go home and let justice take its course and that an indictment would be returned and the Negro given a speedy trial. The crowd failed to disperse, so Chief Sullivan ordered his officers to retreat into the jail and bar the door. While some members of the crowd detained Sullivan, others broke in. The side door of the jail held the officers at gunpoint and took Harris from the jail. The mob, described as numbering about 500 men, took Harris to Como Triangle, where the hanging was performed. In seeking an understanding of the fast-paced events leading to the hanging, it is relevant to note that the New Era reported that Connolly was a well-respected and prominent business owner and the nephew of the Garland County probate judge, Charles Davis. One further article listed the past criminal history of Harris, referring to his bad record. Although there is no direct reference to the Ku Klux Klan being involved in this lynching, it is also noteworthy that a final report in the New Era dated August 3 provides considerable coverage to the Klan's role in overseeing Connolly's funeral. This final report may lend substance to the eyewitness account that there was a sizable Ku Klux Klan march in Hot Springs during this time frame. The site where Harris and, previously, Will Norman were lynched is now occupied by the Hot Springs Confederate Monument.